crack a dead, that's the program. No hesitation, cut a racist throat, that's the demonstration. Nigga, pull the nigga out, just to do the magic. Tragic how they do us, but we ain't gon' have that no more.
If enough of them kill people, then that's no longer abnormal because the majority of the people are killing. Abnormal is not to kill, okay, in their book, only because it's not something deemed, quote, normal or commonly done. If it's commonly done, then that's normal.
Get out of the car now. I'm going to drag you out of here.
So you're threatening to drag me out of my own car?
Get out of the car.
And then
I will light you up. Get out.
Wow.
Now.
Wow.
Get out of the car.
For a failure to signal. You're doing all of this for
Get over there.
Right, yeah. Yeah, let's take this to court.
Go ahead.
For a failure to signal. Yep, for a failure to signal.
Get off the phone.
On my school. My God, they must have...
You ain't getting a warning. Sit down. You're going to jail.
I'm getting it for what?
You can come read.
What?
Come read right.
I'm getting a warning for what?
Stay right here.
For what? Well, you
Stay
just
right
pointed
here.
me over there.
I said stay right
Get
here.
your out right. Let me... Oh, I put on my light down some pussy. You're about to break my wrist. Can you stop? You are about to break my wrist.
Stop moving. Stop now. Stop it.
Stop resisting, man.
If you would stop, then I would tell you. Now stop.
This makes you feel real good, don't it? A female for a traffic ticket.
I got it.
For a traffic ticket. I know that makes you feel good, officer.
Okay, take care of yourself.
I know it makes you feel real good. You're a real man now. You just slam me, knock my head in the ground. I got epilepsy, you
Good.
Good.
You should have thought about that before you start resisting.
All right, yeah, this is real good. Real good for a female, yeah.
I'm Dr. Claude Anderson. What is race and what is racism? See, if you go back in history, let's go back to about the 1450s as an instance. In about 1450, there was no such thing as a race. What they had in those days, they had tribes, they had religious groups, and they had nations. That was it. Those three things: tribes, nations, and religions. But there was no such thing as race. But about 1445 to 1450, at that particular time, a guy named Henry the Navigator went off the coast of Africa, and he picked up about 16 blacks and took them back to Portugal and to Italy. And he got back there. He gave them to the Catholic Church as a gift, and suggested they can use them however they saw fit. And they used the Catholic Church. The reason they gave them to the Catholic Church, you see, was because prior to that time, the Catholic Church sort of played the role of being an advocate and a consoler for people who were slaves. Because to be a slave in that time, you had, again, as I said, be persecuted for being either for indebtedness or for religious persecution or a victim of a war, a prisoner of war. And so the Catholic Church was playing the role of being a great consoler, come in and comfort you. And so when Henry the Navigator gave those 16 blacks to the Catholic Church in about 1445, 1450, they kept them and used them. What we do, we use them as slaves, as servants in the Catholic Church. And they used them in that role from about 1445, 1450 up until about 1488. And in 1488, a guy named Pope Innocent, he says, we found out over this 40-something year period, having these blacks around, that's a good thing. And because we never had them before. As I said before, to be a slave, you had to be either indebted to someone or religiously being persecuted or a prisoner of war. But these were neither of those things. So they said, well, this is a good thing. And so at that point in time, they injected the word race into race popped up. Not necessarily at that point, but around that point. And by saying, okay, what we're going to do now is just use them in any capacity we could. Then about 4 or 5 years later, Henry the Navigator, after Henry the Navigator gave all these things to the Catholic Church, Columbus sailed around the world in hopes of finding new land and valuables and golds, and matter of fact, even finding dope and sugar. And he ran into a continent over here called North American continent. He landed there, and he found out that it was pretty much uninhabited, except a few, about maybe 100, 200,000 at max Indians running around the land. And it was pretty much uninhabited. He went back to Europe, and so by the early 1500s, it was a major thing was going on across the world. Starting in Europe, they were suffering from famine, diseases, food shortages, and crime. And they needed to do something to resuscitate the entire European continent. And they were looking for a hope. So when Columbus came back and said, I found all this land, and it's uninhabited, that's when racism started, right there. It picked up, going all the way back to Henry the Navigator up to this point. Racism started at that point. How did it start? Because then they said, you know what? We need to go inhabit that land and try to use it. It has value. But how are we going to do it? And people said, well, remember what Pope Innocent said back in 1487? Let's use those people called blacks, use them as a labor class. And we're going to change the whole concept of how to get wealth and power and save this continent. The entire European continent was going down the toilet. It's what we do then, we'll combine things. Instead of being practicing mercantilism, as we've been doing up to this point in time, let's come up with a new concept. And where you can own and control, get the land, get the tools and the resources, and use someone else's labor, and to enrich yourself, that becomes capitalism. And that's where the concept of capitalism started. But let's go back to the concept about race. So a race started. 9 European nations, Italy, France, Germany, the rest of them said they got into a race. So let's try to see who can be the first one to get over in those countries to North America, South America, Central America, and the Caribbean, and use black labor to enrich ourselves. They were in a race to develop wealth and power by going and extracting the resources out of America, or owning and controlling the land and the tools, and using black labor to enrich themselves. That's where race came. That was a race. A race is a contest. They began to compete. That's why you heard me say on a number of occasions before, learning how to compete. And as they began to compete as nations, they competed from about the early 1500s all the way up till about 1857, right on the eve of the Civil War. And that's when the race ended. The race ended. That was a 300-year. The race ended then. You know why it ended? Because at that point in time, those European nations who had all pitched in together, as well as some Asian nations and Latin American, they had pitched in together to exploit black labor. And all the resources have been transferred into the hands of non-blacks. And the race was over in 1859. And when the race ended, they took the E off of race and stuck a suffix called ISM, which means sustain and hold on to the prevailing conditions. At that particular time in 1859, whites owned almost 99% of everything in America, and black slaves owned practically nothing. You had about almost 4.5 to 5 million slaves, but they owned practically nothing. And the only people, and the few blacks that had gotten something, was you had about 200-some thousand blacks that were free. Collectively, they had 1/2 or 1% of anything of value. At that point in 1859, the race ended. And they took the E off of race and stuck the suffix ISM. That's where racism came from. It had nothing to do with minorities and poor folk and people of color. It had to do strictly with black people and whites, which means all the wealth and resources and land, ownership, rights, privileges, businesses, income, and all have been transferred into the hands of the dominant white society. And consequently, from that point on, whites would own and control everything in the country, and that was what racism was. At any time black folk asked for anything, for reparations, or affirmative action, or any preferential treatment, anything, you sort of be in an opposition to it. Whites and their sub-ethnics were to oppose anything that would allow the conditions of black folk to change. Whites were in 1859 on the eve of the Civil War. Whites in America, they were 100-foot giants, and black folk were 1-foot midgets. To make sure they owned and controlled nothing, had no power and resources. And that's where racism came from. It's remained unchanged up until this time. But what's happening now, to keep black folk confused, they want to pretend that racism also is the same as bias, bigotry, hatred, personal attitudes, or discrimination. Those things have nothing to do with Everybody discriminates. Even in a family, you can discriminate, but you can have 5 kids and discriminate between them. That has nothing to do with racism. And see, black folk must learn that and understand that black people can never be racist. All they can do in America is react to white racism. Blacks don't have the power to enslave, Jim Crow, segregate, or mistreat anybody in America. And racism is an issue between blacks and whites. It has nothing to do with language groups or culture groups or other groups coming to America. It is our gays, a midget. It has to do with black people, blacks and whites. And so now that you understand racism, be on the guard. Don't let anybody use those terms in front of you to confuse it and mix it with things that don't pertain to black folk. White folks started misusing the word race after 1859 and told black folk it has to do with how you feel about somebody, and how you, whether you like them or not. Racism started off as an economic issue between blacks and whites. It is still an economic issue between blacks and whites. Now that you know, go forward, produce wealth and power for our people.
For years, I've come on the air many times, and people who have been in a conversation with me on the air, many of them have said white supremacy and racism. And I'm constantly saying white supremacy is racism, and racism is white supremacy. You never say it any other way. There's no other form of racism. There are forms of hatred. There are forms of people having animosity. There are all kinds of things going on the planet that shouldn't be happening among all people, regardless of whom they are, who the people may be. But when you start talking about the word race and racism, it's only one race. Some people have said it's a human race. That's a contradiction. How can you be human and be a member of a race? Because race is racism. The only purpose for being a member of a race is to practice what? Racism. That's logical. If you say, I'm a member of a race, well, you say, well, why are you a member of a race? What is a race? Well, a race is a group of people who have a purpose. Well, what's the purpose of a race of people, a group of people who are a race of people? To practice what a group of people who are a race of people would practice. So logically speaking, that would be what? That would be a thing called racism. Just stop and think about it. That's the only purpose for it. It has no other purpose. So then you say, oh, okay, what is racism? This thing that you practice when you practice racism. Oh, that means doing harm to people on the basis of color. That's what it's for. It's not for anything else. You can't name anything else that any other purpose that it would serve. You say, well, oh no, racism just means being having pride in yourself and in your race. Pride based on what? Pride based on what? Say, well, based on the way you cook and the way you sing, the way you dance, your religious beliefs, your getting together and doing things. Getting together and doing things like what? In your race, you can eat and you can sing and you can dance without being a member of a race. What's this racism for? Why are you a member of a race? What are you racing against? People don't ask these detailed questions. All problems are solved through the process of questions and answers. I mean in fine detail. Don't skip over anything. And people, like I said, would say, and a lot of people still do it, white supremacy and racism. Like racism is sitting off on the side of the road, and white supremacy is in the middle of the road. Well, what is racism? If white supremacy is in the middle of the road, what is racism over there to the side of the road? What is that? They're the same thing. According to what? Neely Fuller? No, according to logic. And so that's what I came up with many years ago. And even though I talk to people who are college professors sometimes, and that run right past them. I mean, they brush right past it. And it's almost amazing. I say, wait a minute, these are words that are very important. Sir, ma'am, racism is white supremacy. White supremacy is racism. These are not words just thrown around just any kind of old way. These are very important words. It has to do with the existence of everybody on this planet, every minute of the existence of everybody on this planet. You have to have definitions.
We got them foe. We got them foe. We got them foe. Yeah, in your sleep you feel choked.
Racism to me is discrimination against a certain ethnicity based on fear. My earliest account that I dealt with racism as a child, I believe I was maybe kindergarten or first grade. Me and my mom was at a grocery store. Her and a white lady had some type of altercation. I'm not even sure what the altercation was about. But the manager came over and told us to get out. And it was just me and my mom he told to get out. He didn't tell the other lady to get out, which was the white lady. Mm-hmm. He never came over there and said, what's going on, what's the problem, to see if, you know, we caused the problem, the other person caused the problem. He never even said nothing. He just looked at us and said, get out. So
wow.
I understand that was a racist situation. So me and my girls, we had a little crew, you know, and we was going around kicking it, doing some things that teenagers do. The police, we wasn't doing anything illegal. They just came over, vroom, vroom, vroom. It's about, I want to say about 8 girls at the store, corner store, which was Andy at the time. They come over there, what's going on? What are you guys doing? Why are you hanging out here? You're loitering, this, that, or whatever. And do you know that we got arrested for loitering? And we were just walking home from school, stopping at the store, talking in the middle of the parking lot.
Wow.
That was a racist situation, I believe, because we weren't doing anything, just being teenagers.
And you were all black friends?
All black friends.
Wow.
All black friends. They took us to jail for loitering. We had to call our parents to come get us.
Wow. And white officers, definitely white officers?
Definitely white officers. It wasn't me personally, it was my son.
Okay.
He had just got a new car. He had got the little temporary sticker on there. He was riding through the neighborhood or whatever. And the police pulled him over for no reason at all.
Wow.
So what my son did, he pulled over. The officer, you know, came to the window, said, can I see your license and insurance? My son gave him his license, his insurance, and he asked him, what did you pull me over for? Now, mind you, I didn't know none of this, but it was all recorded, you know.
Okay.
Somebody had recorded this, so we seen this afterwards to know that the officer was dead wrong and bogus and had no reason for pulling him over at all except driving while black.
Okay.
Okay, so the officer ran his plate, ran his license, you know, seen his insurance, told him to step out the car. My son said, what am I stepping out the car for? What do you need me to step out the car for? I'm not stepping out the car. He locked his doors.
Okay.
So I guess in the meantime, they were calling for somebody else to come or whatever, and my son took off. You know what I'm saying? But he ended up getting caught. They called him, took him to jail. What did they take him to jail for? Fleeing and eluding the police, but he shouldn't have never fled and eluded the police, right. But the police had no reason for stopping him. He was legit, he had license, he had insurance, so why did you need him to step out the car? So when we seen the recording caught my son before the police even got put the lights on. He was just riding down Green Garden. He got to the stop sign at Oak, and he stopped at the stop sign. The officer came like from out of nowhere behind him, putting the lights on to pull him over or whatever. So at that point, my son was scared. It was a lot going on at that time with. That's why he refused to get out the car.
Killing unarmed black people?
Yeah, he said, I haven't done anything. I'm legit. Why do I need to step outside the car? So in that instance, he made his own decision to, not step out the car and to go do what he did. But that was blatant discrimination, racism, or whatever you want to call it, because he was black, driving, and
pulled over for nothing.
Pulled over for nothing. Mind you, he had dreads in his hair.
For sure.
And it wasn't it wasn't like it was other people in the car, but that was just them trying to find something. When they say, get out the car, what I'm getting out the car for?
Yeah,
you got everything you need right here. So they said that, they also said that he tried to hit the police officer with his car when actually he said the police officer was trying to open his car door. That's when he pulled off. How does that mean he's trying to hurt him? So all of that was seen on the recording. Thank God for the neighbor in the area that was recording at the time. So all of that did get thrown out. I don't think it'll totally be ever eliminated, but to try to decrease it, I think, like we were talking, knowledge of self, knowledge of the system and the rules that they have put in place. I don't know, spiritually, because spirit is first. That's who we really are. These shells that we have that we're walking in, it's just a shell. You know what I'm saying? The spirit is what gives it life. So if we know who we are in the spirit, everything else got to come in order under that. The main thing is understanding how the system works, the rules that's put in place to keep us dumbed down, the things that could open up their pineal glands so they can see spiritually who they are, who they were created to be, and the power and the strength and the wisdom that they could connect to if they knew who they were.
Killer, cracker, dead, that's the program, no hesitation, cut a racist throat, that's the demonstration.
You don't remember what kind of drinks they were?
No, sir.
All right.
I really don't, Mr. Ross.
All right, I think you've had too much to drink to be driving. So put your hands behind your back for me. Yeah, put your hands behind your back.
Hey, stop fighting. Stop fighting. Stop fighting. You're gonna get tased. You're gonna get tased. You're gonna get tased. Stop. Come on, man. Stop. You're gonna get tased.
Mr. Ross.
Hey, hands up. Taser.
Stop. Stop fighting.
Stop fighting. Hands off the taser. Stop fighting. Taser. Oh. 63.
If enough of them kill people, then that's no longer abnormal because the majority of the people are killing. Abnormal is not to kill, okay, in their book, only because it's not something deemed, quote, normal or commonly done. If it's commonly done, then that's normal.
Did he hit you with it? I felt it, but I don't.
You good? You all right?
Yeah. Still got the adrenaline pumping.
You all right?
I'm okay.
All right, good. All right, we're going to take care of you, brother. I'm just glad you all right. That's my biggest concern.
Yeah.
I'm just glad you all right. That's my biggest concern.
We're good.
All right, good. You talk to your wife, you talk to your family, everybody?
No, I hadn't called anybody other than the IPPO.
Okay. All right,
Appreciate
hopefully we'll get this cleared up.
right.
Anything you need from me?
Any update on Mr. Brooks?
Well, I ain't checked yet, so
Okay.
we'll get that squared away, all right?
All right.
But you're good.
In order for white supremacy to be supreme, they have to give themselves advantages. And we don't see that until we look at it. And we see it now. In order to be the best, I have to give you a head start. I have to make sure you can get out there and you're running. And then to make sure that they win the race, I gotta make sure you can't run at all. I'm gonna tie your shoes. So you're gonna have a disadvantage and I'm gonna have all of the advantages. And yet you still lose the race. Keep that in mind. There's people who are psychologically, both sides are psychologically confused. I'm not lying to you. I have to be psychologically messed up to believe everything that I've been taught as a child about that person, and I've never seen that person. I have to be psychologically messed up to believe that I'm the best when I know better. When I know that I didn't pass that test, but I was given an A. I have to be, and now, wait a minute. You mean to tell me I passed that test and I didn't do right? I didn't do everything I was supposed to do? Now I'm wondering if I can. Now I doubt myself. So now
You psyched out.
Yes.
Yes. Psyched
Yes.
out. That's exactly.
I'm really let's see. I doubt myself. I'm not sure of myself, so I'm insecure. And then I think that this was generations. Because of all these helps, and here I am just where I am.
And I didn't earn it. Generation.
There you go.
Giving it to you.
Right. So now I resent you because I know you have the ability to do something.
That I was just given.
Right. But if I help you, then I'll be hurting me. So I got to go along with the program.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna do what I'm. Yeah.
That's it. I see that.
So the psychology works on everybody. Now for me on the other side, I'm doubting myself too. Because I think I can't, because I haven't been allowed to. And that's what we don't realize, we haven't been allowed to. That everything has been restricted from us. But it's the mind that's captured, it's the mind. Because once you get out of that box, you're okay. As a matter of fact, get out of the box. And just look on the outside. I mean, look to see what's on the inside. You'll never go back. So they don't want you outside that box. They don't want you to be a free thinker.
That's right.
And so that's why the information is suppressed. Because if you get free, you're never gonna come back. And you're gonna take some people with you.
Killer cracker dead, that's the program, no hesitation. Cut a racist throat, that's the demonstration. Nigga, pull the nigga.
In my opinion, racism, there's a lot of forms of racism. But in a nutshell, racism is power. Power control, power to not allow you to live in an area, work a job. Power, it's not name calling. It's not nigga, you nigga. It's not that, in my opinion. It's a form of it. But racism, in my definition, is power, which we have none as black people. So can we be racist?
I agree. We can't be racist because we don't own shit.
Put your hands on your back! Put your hands on your back! Sitting in class, this white boy had to be at least 6'4", 6'5". In high school, he was the skinhead type. Big boots, black boots, bald head, trench coat, all black every day. He just looked scary to me. I never seen nobody like that before in my life. Well, he knew that I was afraid of him because he gave that off. That nigga, I'ma kill you. He gave that off to me. And me being a young kid, never seen nothing like this before. He knew I was afraid, and he used to pick on me. You know, he used to. He sat right directly behind me every day, slapped me back in my head. The teachers would never do nothing. Teachers wouldn't do nothing. about this. Like they was afraid of him.
63. Stop fighting!
Him right here. And it just went up. I got in trouble for that at school.
Yeah.
Yeah, they tried to kick me out.
They got that ass though. They'll get his ass.
You know what? It was just a big uproar. Nothing happened. It was just a big. The white boy got up on the desk and I'm gonna kill you, all that. But nothing happened. But
it was a good show.
It was a good shit. I felt good because it's like somebody came to my rescue.
And like he knew you were by yourself.
Right, because I was going through this with the T. They wasn't doing nothing.
You don't own no resources. When you talking food, clothing, and shelter, just the basics, we don't own it. And we never see these people who really own it. We see their subsidiaries and the subsidiaries of their subsidiaries. We never see them. That's a good working definition because it's basically on the level of if I don't like you, I don't like you. That's a prejudice, right? But if I don't like you, and I could shut down your whole family for even coming in a certain area, you know what I mean? That's real life racism. It's an action. Like racism is an action. It's like you can't come over here. You can't hide them clothes. You can't live this life right here. You got to work and you got to always think about bills and survival. You're not living like how I'm living.
That's right.
So I can put certain stuff where you at. I put certain food where you at. But over here where I'm at, you're going to wonder why it's like this over here.
We're tired of that shit. So what about this? Why don't we just give us what you owe us and we can go on and do our own shit?
Would I love every black person in this country to get $1 million check and 100 acres of land? Absolutely. Are they owed that amount? 100%, if not more.
Right.
Is that ever going to happen? When you're talking about tens of millions of people, black people who would get that, it would bankrupt the whole country.
It would bankrupt the whole country, but for the people that built the country to make you that fucking money, you understand? You know, all of a sudden now you worried about being bankrupt when you spend trillions of dollars on defense, trillions of dollars on unnecessary bullshit, trillions of dollars to send black men, especially to jail, trillions of dollars to drug the fuck up our whole country, trillions of dollars to fuck the food up, to fuck the air up, to fuck the water up, trillions of dollars to make people sicker and sicker and sicker and sicker in this country, but you mad? We don't have the money because, and this is what I think, and this is what I believe, you just don't like black people. Plain and motherfucking simple, you do not like black people. It is very obvious. For hundreds of years, we've been the most hated. The most hated, but within that hatred comes the hypocrisy of loving our culture. You've made trillions off of our motherfucking culture. You know that. You've made money off our culture. Let's be real.
Wake up, black man, black woman, wake up. And once you wake up, you know that you are the superior race. You know that you come from superior people.
That's right.
And as you come from superior people, you're supposed to be in charge. The White House belongs to us. Everything that in America belongs to the black man.
That's right.
Whether we accept it or not, but that's what's going on. So I draw this. We move in the demonstration of love, peace, freedom, justice and equality for all. I'm moving the sign that if you bring, that you got to be the message that you bring. And the message got to be that I'm not begging, I come to take what's mine. Economically, politically, science, everything that the universe got belongs to us, and we come to take it all back.
Stop fighting!
Wake up, black man, black woman, wake up.
You made money off our culture. White musicians, all of them have made money off of black fucking culture. All of rock, all of jazz, motherfuckers, all the shit we created from the oppression, which is fucked up in itself. The oppression and the fucking abuse and the rape and the putting down of us
We create blues, jazz, rock and roll, reggae, ska. We invent all of that shit. And to top it off, we invent all the modern shit that you all use. From the video game cartridge, Henry Lawson, huh? We got the pacemaker, Otis Boykin. We have the late Dr. Bath, who created the laser eye surgery. We have Dr. Gladys, who's still alive, who's almost 80 years old, who created GPS. We have the guy who created the algorithm for Instagram, who's a 21-year-old Ghanaian kid. We've done all this shit. Then the internet was discovered by a Nigerian guy in the 80s. Like, we've done all of this innovation, even though we've been shit on and continue to be shit on every motherfucking day, right? Because nobody wants us to live anywhere. Nobody wants us to have this unless we're playing sports for them. Like I said, unless we're academically, right? No, I'm sorry, athletically or sexually satisfying motherfuckers. That's all black people are good for. We're supposed to be at people's beck and fucking call when they want us to entertain them or make them some kind of money. But if we ask for being autonomously wealthy on our own, being autonomously having our own shit, all of a sudden everybody pitches a bitch. Everybody has a fucking hissy fit. People get mad when we want to. You don't want us in your neighborhood. You don't want us in your schools. You don't want us doing anything. But then when we say, hey, okay, that's cool, because Muhammad Ali said in the 60s, he said, hey man, I think we should have our own state. I don't want to live amongst you motherfuckers. They were like, well, why not? You don't want us around. You're segregating everything. And then as soon as we want to go, white people start panicking. White people panic. But, you know, we don't want to be around you, so you can call us niggas, and we're tired of white cops shooting us. We're tired of this pissing contest that these white cops have because they're afraid of black dicks for some fucking reason, because most of this shit is black dick envy. We're tired of that shit. So what about this? Why don't we just give us what you owe us and we can go on and do our own shit? But no, they don't want that. White folks especially hate autonomous black happiness. They do not like when we are by ourselves doing our own shit. They cannot stand that shit. They don't even like us in a group. Like in Chicago, there used to be a thing, if you were 5 or more black guys on the corner, the police break it up. It's called mob action. It's like, what's going on here? If you're at work and you're a black employee and you're talking to another black employee, the white boss go, hey, what's going on over there? You know what I mean? I went to a very white university, and then when the black students hung out with each other, the white students would be like, oh, you guys hang out, you don't mix with us. I go, are you fucking kidding me right now, you delusional clown? It's 40,000, 45,000 white students and 800 black. Who the fuck you think I'm gonna hang out with? They would do shit like this. Anytime they see us get together in any kind of way, we could be at a cafe, and black people could just be drinking coffee, laughing. All of a sudden, white people are like, oh boy, Negro, so loud. Excuse me, can we turn down this Negro sound? You know, it's like fucked up. Like anytime we have our own shit, whites always gotta have their hand in our shit. They always gotta be part of it. And if they're not part of it, then we're back to being niggas, we're back to being coons and spades and all this other dumb shit. Well, you understand where I'm coming from? But this is where this is coming from. Honestly, it's like because everybody disagree because they don't like black people. It's not from nothing else. I don't want to hear no policy shit. I don't want to hear your rules. You don't like black people, period.
Racism started off as an economic issue between blacks and whites. It is still an economic issue between blacks and whites. Now that you know, go forward, produce wealth and power for our people.
Killer cracker dead, that's the program, no hesitation. Cut a racist throat, that's the demonstration. Nigga, pull the liquor out, just to do the magic. Tragic how they do us, but we ain't gon' have that no more.